Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back after a holiday. So like I said, this just feels like the second Monday of the week. I am Jill Nagy Reynolds, and I am with the SBA Columbus District Office. I'm very excited to work with Apex Accelerators on this great presentation on doing business with the Ohio Department of Public Safety and the Ohio Lottery Commission. This is the third webinar training that we've done with state agencies, and I can tell you it has been an excellent learning experience, and I really appreciate the time that procurement specialists have given us, and hopefully you'll learn something today about doing business with their respective departments. So what we're going to do, it is being recorded today. My colleague Shonda Harris, who is also with the SBA Columbus District Office, she will be monitoring the chat. And just to let everyone know, if you have questions about Ohio buys after this presentation, we are going to do a follow-up with Ohio buys on March 8th. So further training on Ohio buys if you would like to have it. But we are going to now turn it over to Sharon Hopkins, who is with the Ohio University Apex Accelerator. She's going to talk briefly about Apex Accelerator services, and then we will get started with Jeffrey Drips at the Ohio Department of Public Safety. All right, thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. I'm sure several of you are very familiar with the Apex Accelerators and what used to be called PTACs. We just moved our federal funding agency from DLA to DOD, so from Defense Logistics Agency to Department of Defense. And we're still supported by the state of Ohio, and then Ohio University also gives money so that we can provide our services at no cost to businesses in Ohio. So basically, our mission in life is to help Ohio businesses sell to government agencies. And we do this through training programs like today. We also work with SBA and the state of Ohio to do matchmakers and other kinds of trainings. And we do one-on-one counseling to help you get registered, to help you market to the right places, and to develop the right marketing material for government. So we do all of that, and if you find a solicitation in which you want to respond, we can help you look at that, evaluate it, and then give you pointers on your response. So anything around contracting with government, whether it's local, state, or federal, we are your go-to person, or go-to agency, I guess, organization. So welcome today, and I will turn it back over. Jill, do you want to go next?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, I will introduce Jeffrey Drips with the Ohio Department of Public Safety. And Jeff, if you can turn your camera on, please, and let's see about uploading and do the screen share. And for those of you participating in the webinar, we discussed whether to have questions at the time of the presentation or afterwards. And Jeff mentioned during the presentation, and Shonda will be monitoring if you can just type your questions in. Jeff, are you there?
I'm here. Can
okay, you see me? Yes, I can see you. Okay. Okay, very good. And Shonda will be monitoring the questions in the chat and then asking you at a little bit. She's going to find a spot that works and not cutting you off mid-sentence is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So do you want to hit screen share and see if your presentation loads, or are you going to?
Sure.
Okay. Perfect. And it's showing on full screen. Very good. So I will just go ahead and let you introduce yourself, and we'll just be listening in.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here today. My name is Jeffrey Drips. I am the agency procurement officer for the Ohio Department of Public Safety. Over the past 9 years, I've worked as an agency procurement officer, the sourcing supervisor over contracts, and program administrator 2, which is a specifications writer for major acquisitions. Throughout that time, I have managed and supervised license plate production for the state of Ohio as well. I've also earned my certification through Ohio Fiscal Academy in 2019. Prior to that, I was in the public sector. Let's see here. I worked for a long-term care community. I was a voting member for the Healthcare Venture Alliance Purchasing Committee. My professional affiliations are the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing, which is NIGP, and that's as a national member, and also the Central Ohio Organization of Public Purchasers. We call that COOP, and that's a local chapter. That's all about me. We can move on to the presentation. The Ohio Department of Public Safety procurement services. I'm going to give you a breakdown of what units we have within procurement at public safety. I'm also going to give you a little bit of background on what divisions we have, background on Ohio Buys, just a little bit. I'm not going to be able to tell you a lot about Ohio Buys because I don't work in that area, but I can give you a lot of information that'll be on this slide and available to you through the SBA. You can get that from them. So let's get started. The procurement section of the Ohio Department of Public Safety is composed of 3 units. The mission of these units is to provide ethical, efficient, timely, and cost-effective procurement services for all divisions within the agency and environment of teamwork and cooperation. So the 3 units that we have are major acquisitions, contracts, and direct purchase. So the major acquisitions unit, we administer purchase requests that have potential to exceed agency direct spending authority, which is $50,000. These requests often vary in size, complexity, scope, and length of time are formally solicited as a request for a quotation, request for proposal, or an invitation to bid. The contracts unit manages purchase personal services, maintenance agreements, automotive, plumbing, heating, trash removal, electrical, and rental and janitorial service agreements between private vendors, state, local, and federal agencies for all ODPS divisions. And finally, the direct purchase unit is responsible for purchase requests for goods. So that's any furnishings, clothing, tires, etc., and equipment for all ODPS divisions. So direct purchase, now they will get like pencils and paper and things of that nature. So if you have if you have a gadget if we have a gadget that needs to be purchased, we'll put it out on the website and we will get bids for that. We have 9 divisions now with the Ohio Department of Public Safety. It's the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, which we call the BMV, the Emergency Management Agency, EMA, Emergency Medical Services, EMS, Ohio Department, or the Ohio State Highway Patrol, OSHP, Ohio Homeland Security, OHS, Ohio Narcotics Intelligence Center, ONIC, or ONIC, Office of Criminal Justice Services, OCJS, and Ohio School Safety Center, OSSC, and Ohio Traffic Safety Office, OTSO. Okay, and this is I'm going to break down a little bit of each one of these and what they do. Bureau of Motor Vehicles, they oversee driver and motor vehicle licensing and registration and communities to make services more convenient, efficient, and cost effective. I've also listed links here throughout these so that you can just take your time to go and look at each one of those websites and get a little bit more information on what they do and what they need. Okay, we have the Emergency Management Agency. They coordinate activities to mitigate, prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters, both natural and man-made. Emergency Medical Services. They oversee the certification of emergency medical technicians and firefighters, and provides that these people in lifelong roles are properly trained, educated, and prepared for emergency situations. Ohio State Highway Patrol. The Ohio State Highway Patrol is an internationally accredited agency whose mission is to protect life and property, promote traffic safety, and provide professional public safety services with respect, compassion, and unbiased professionalism. Ohio Homeland Security leads Ohio's commitment to addressing the threats and challenges of terrorism. Ohio Narcotics Intelligence Center, ONIC, providing investigative support through the extraction and analysis of electronic devices, criminal case support, tactical, operational, and strategic intelligence support, trend analysis, cryptocurrency tracing, and dark web investigations. Office of Criminal Justice Services serves agencies and communities committed to reducing and preventing crime across Ohio through its research, technology, grants, administration, and programmatic initiatives. Ohio School Safety Center, assisting local schools and law enforcement with preventing, preparing for, and responding to threats and acts of violence, including self-harm, through a holistic, solutions-based approach to improving school safety. The Ohio Traffic Safety Office provides federal funds to eligible entities to be used for projects such as traffic safety education, enforcement, and engineering. So that was a little bit about each one of our divisions, and within each one of those divisions, we buy everything from helicopters to pencils. You know, there's a wide range of things we buy, and Ohio Buys is the current system that we use to do our purchasing. So here I'm going to explain a little bit about Ohio Buys, like I said, but I'm not an expert in Ohio Buys by any means. The next thing that the SBA puts on for you with the administrative services, we'll be able to explain a lot more on this. Okay, the majority of the services and goods produced by ODPS are solicited through Ohio Buys. Ohio Buys is the state procurement system. Each vendor will start by getting set up with an OHID. So that's the most important thing, is to start there, is get your OHID, get registered for that. Then you go to Ohio Pays. You'll see the link number 2 here, and link number 1 down here is where you're going to go to get set up to complete your registration. Please note that it is very important that when registering, make sure to have an order and contract contact listed, so you will receive bid opportunities through Ohio Buys based off your commodity codes. Please use the below hyperlinks to assist you in the process of registering as a supplier with the state of Ohio. Also, I recommend contacting OBM Shared Services Center, there's a link here, and here's their phone number to assist you with registration. I highly recommend that you contact these folks because this system is not the easiest to get set up in. So if you contact them, they'll walk you through it step by step. Here's a couple of links that you can go to on your own leisure. I will show you the actual public solicitation page here. Once you get set up and say you do not have a specific commodity code that you have assigned, you're going to pick all the commodity codes. And if you don't have it assigned, you're not going to get an email for it. So what you're going to want to do is at least go to this page, and you should be checking this page daily for opportunities. And here's the page. Can everybody see that?
Yes. Yep, we can see it.
Great. So basically what this is, this is the solicitation board. If you have an interest in bidding on this, you're just going to come in and open up one of the solicitations. And then you can probably just, I don't know if you can do it by entering the pencil here. Let's try and see what it is. So here's the solicitation, and this is where you can drop your bid. Now, let's see. Stop presenting, right? Did I happen to stop sharing?
Yes.
Okay, let me get that back up there. Can you
Yep.
see it now?
Yes,
All
I
right.
can see it.
All right. So you're going to use these links. You can go into these links here and take your time and look through them. There are going to be videos in here that show you how to do things step by step. Just take your time and go through here. How do commodity codes work in Ohio buys? So what we use is the unspec org. So you would actually go here, and it gives you a list of all the commodity codes that are being used. You want to make sure that when you're setting yourself up in Ohio buys, that you use as many commodity codes as possible. So the more commodity codes you use, the more emails you'll get. You'll get a lot of emails that don't relate to you, but you can delete those, but you'll be sure that you didn't miss anything. So I'm going to give you a little talk on that. If a supplier selects the top level, 44, what is it? Yeah, whatever that is, for office equipment, and the agency selects the commodity under that level, like 441215404. If you think that that's your commodity, that's fine selecting that, but you should be selecting the higher commodity, because then you will get all the emails that are related to that commodity code. For window envelopes, would that supplier be notified of a solicitation being publicly posted? That's the question we posed to DAS. And it came back as the supplier is notified when anything is related to the first two numbers. So the first two numbers, in your example, anything that starts with a 44, the supplier would be notified. This could mean that the supplier is getting emails for goods and services that they can't provide. But the mindset is that rather than have them delete the email, then risk losing the chance to bid on the project. Okay, so how does ODPS pay for their suppliers? We pay with purchase orders, POs, or payment cards, which is a credit card, basically. Purchase orders, what are they? It's an encumbrance reserves allotment to allow for the future payment of an agency's legal obligations. When an encumbrance is necessary, it is not valid until the requisition undergoes approvals, certifies available appropriation by passing budget check for the funding applied to it, and dispatches the purchase order in OAKS. What OAKS is our accounting system. Okay. So in most cases, encumbrances should be supported by a contract, agreement, obligation, resolution, or order to be performed for a current fiscal year. Okay. Payment cards. State of Ohio payment card program allows state employees to make immediate purchases of certain goods and services using a payment card. The program is designed to simplify the purchase of materials, equipment, supplies, and services while lowering transaction costs. So we have approximately 160 folks with P cards, say, for example, the Highway Patrol, they will use that to buy supplies out in the field. Anything under $5,000 that post needs to purchase, they can use on their payment card. Let's see here, and that's it. That's all I have. So I guess we can go with any questions if we have any questions.
Okay, are there any questions that, I know someone posted about the slides, and yes, the slides will be made available, but are there any questions? Thank you so much, Jeffrey. If anybody wants to type their question in the chat.
I didn't put anything in the chat. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So with the solicitation page, is that a process to get set up for that? In other words, does it take a few days for them to process it and everything, or is it immediate?
It is not immediate. It will happen over a period of week or two, depending on how long it takes you to get set up in there. It like I said, is extensive, but if you have somebody walk through it with you and make sure that you get those commodity codes in there, okay, you'll start getting emails pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Daryl, great question. Just to piggyback on what Jeff said, excuse me, on March 8th, we actually, Ohio Department of Administrative Services, ODAS, will be doing a follow-up session. They actually kicked off our series with doing business with state agencies. So they're going to be coming back and going over things like how do you get set up as a vendor, where and how to look for opportunities, just some of the basic things that kind of Jeff had in his presentation, and some of the links. We'll have somebody to walk you through it to kind of show you how to do that. So hopefully you'll be available on March 8th, same time, 10 to 12. If not, all of the webinars that we've been doing will be recorded, and then the slides, the recording link plus a copy of the PDF slides will be posted to the Apex Accelerators website, the Ohio University, formerly PTAC. So you can access that. Hopefully that helps. While I was answering that, we do have several questions that have poured in. So Noah Berkheimer wants to know, recruiting services are procured. Are recruiting services also procured through this same system, the Ohio Buys?
Recruiting services? What are those?
Are you recruiting services? Noah, are you talking about?
It'd be supplying talent. So where you're looking to do perhaps a project base and you're trying to hire a certain amount of headcount, whether it's a disastrous, we do it for the federal government. So when FEMA staffs up quickly and they need a bunch of IT professionals, telecom professionals, we supply those. But I know sometimes those type of projects happen at the state level as well. And it doesn't have to be a FEMA type of project, but we see that in all kinds of sections of government agencies. I'm just curious if we're going to see those type of projects put out on the same Ohio Buy system, and if that's where they'll be procured.
So what happens with those types of things, we already have contracts in place with DAS. So DAS is the administrator of all of our contracts for the most part. I mean, we do have individual contracts, for contracts that big in nature, DAS will put out that we can purchase against. And those are some of those are mandatory contracts, like the one you're talking about. We have a mandatory contract currently in place that we have to pick those professionals from.
Understood.
So when that comes back up for a rebid, which it does every 2 years or something like that, you would have to be part of Ohio Buys. You'll get a notification from Ohio Buys, and then you can bid on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think, Jeff, to add to that, if that's for IT services, the state does hire a prime contractor. So there's a company that holds the contract with the state, but then that prime contractor they do have subcontract opportunities for various different agencies. So and I don't know how they post that, but that could be something that we ask
DAS.
on DAS to kind of go over on March 8th on how they procure those subcontracting opportunities. And I believe it's with all the different agencies that they have that. So hopefully, now I know the next question kind of ties into something of that nature. Do you, Jeff, what kind of IT opportunities does your agency, do they do forecasting where they will list all of the different items that they are anticipating on buying for the year? And if so, are IT opportunities listed in that forecast?
No, we don't. We don't list that. As they come up, we post them on the website, and that's where you're going to find that.
Okay.
So through Ohio Buys, that's where you will find it in our posting. Those come up all the time. So we're always buying software. We're always buying software maintenance, things of that nature. The IT products are definitely going to be coming through Ohio Buys.
Okay, and that's for both products and services, IT related.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
So we do all of our contracts will go through Ohio Buys. It's the ones that really don't go through Ohio Buys to get bid out all the time are the local businesses. So if we have local businesses, the like HVAC, plumbing, like tire services for automotive things, we will put an agreement together with local businesses so that we can utilize their services when need be.
Okay.
We have many. I mean, we don't have to just use one, but we will get 3 bids typically from a local service, and the lowest one will get our business.
Okay, thank you. Felicia Jefferson wants to know, can they as a small business contact the purchasers or contracting officers directly? Or do they only have to go through Ohio Buys?
Yeah, if you want to set up a meeting with us to give us your capabilities or something like that, we'll be happy to meet with you. So yeah, we're one of those groups where we have people come in where you can sit down with us and explain your business to us, or we can do it online. It doesn't have to be an in-person meeting, but we're happy to set something up with you and discuss what you do.
Now, is there a general email that somebody could contact?
I can give you, I'll give you my email number or address,
Okay.
and then you can send me the emails, and then I'll forward it on to our individuals who will handle getting that set up.
Okay, maybe
But
if you don't
talk,
mind.
you will definitely talk with me or at least one of my supervisors.
And maybe if you can say that, I can have, maybe I'm gonna ask Jill to type it in the chat, your email address, or Jill, if you can post it in the chat. And if somebody wants to know, he mentioned a capability statement, and
Yes.
a capability statement is essentially a 1-page, like a resume for your company. And as far as marketing to government agencies, that is your marketing material capability statement. And it lists overview of who you are, who your company is, the type of services and that you provide, your codes, if you have any certifications, and then also your past performance. It's a 1-pager. If you need help putting that together, your Apex accelerators are great resources to help you put a capability statement together. And then it, of course, has your contact information on it as well.
Correct. And we keep that so that if something comes up, we at least know that we're going to send you an email saying, hey, this is out there. You need to take a look at this.
Okay. Next question, Jason Tangi. What % of opportunities would you say are services?
What % are services? I would say we buy a lot more product than services, but I would say that I can tell you how many contracts. Basically, we have about 2,500 contracts. So we do a lot of service contracts. So that's hard to explain what percentage that's going to be.
Okay.
It's a
And
high
I'm
number.
not quite sure this next question. What is the dollar amount? This is the second part of Jason's question. What is the dollar amount roughly per year of services needed? I'm not.
So here's how that works. So we'll say $50,000 is the most I can spend with any particular agency or any vendor.
Okay.
$50,000 is what I'm allowed to spend with you. However, I can always go to the controlling board and ask for more money if need be.
Okay. Thank you. So
So
Bob,
you win $50,000 worth of bids throughout the course of a year, that's fine. And then you bid on something else and you go over your allotment of the $50,000, I would just go to the controlling board to get more money because it was bid out through Ohio Buys website and it was done competitively so that I can ask for more money. I just have to have a good reason to go to the controlling board to ask for it.
okay. That is good to know. I didn't know that. Bob James, good to see you on the webinar. If you noticed, Jeffrey's contact information, his email is posted in the chat. So jwdrips@dps.ohio.gov. Thank you, Jill. And also, Stu, I believe you, Jeff mentioned you can also email him. So you can check in the chat for his email. Craig Lund wants to know, are there goals that your agency has to do business with small businesses, with those that are EDGE certified? Does your agency have goals that they need to meet?
So the goals that we have to meet around MBE set-asides is 15%. That's our goal, is 15%. EDGE is typically 5%. So yeah, everything that we do in Ohio Buys right now is bid out, MBE set aside first.
Okay.
And then if we don't have any MBEs able to bid on it, then we go outside. And that being said, saying that we bid everything out MBE first, we as an organization are still at only like 10% for the year. And it gets bid out. That just tells you that there's not a lot of MBEs that we believe should be bidding on a lot of these projects that aren't. So
Okay.
if you're an MBE and you should definitely be looking into Ohio Buys because there's a lot of opportunities for you there, not just with our agency, but with all the other agencies as well.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. And just to clarify, we never want to assume everyone knows what MBE and EDGE stands for. Probably most of you do, but MBE is Minority Business Enterprise. And if you're a minority business and you've been in business at least 1 year, you can apply for that certification through the state. And EDGE is Encouraging Diversity, Growth, and Equity. And it is goal-based. And you can also apply for that through the state as well, those certifications. All right, Una Tolbert has a question. I'm in the logistics business. I transport small items using cargo van. Would I be a service that Ohio Buys would utilize?
Absolutely. Like I said, those commodity codes are going to be essential to you. So you find those commodity codes that are that deal with that type of service. Oh yeah, we definitely use small companies to transport things for us right now.
Awesome. In addition, Una, you may want to check out, we did a webinar with ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation. So there may be some opportunities with that division of the state. And then also we did another webinar with PTAC last week on doing business with Crawley, a prime contractor. And I believe that the link for that is posted on PTAC's website. And they also have subcontracting opportunities for logistics and transportation companies. Greg Devada, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, are all IT development projects put through DBITS contracts with DAS? I think.
Are all of them? No. But we will ask DAS if they were going to bid it out or if we're going to bid it out. They always don't go through DBITS, no.
Okay. Thank you. Egyptian has a question. Do you purchase PPE products and vending machines, et cetera?
Do we purchase vending machines? No.
PPE products.
PPE products, we do, yes. But I just need you to know this, that there are contracts that DAS put out that we have to go through. So your best bet is when DAS puts a bid out, make sure those commodity codes are in there. When DAS puts a bid out for something like that, you want to make sure that you're bidding on it. So when we get, so happens is DAS puts a contract out, they get a bid, we just go to the DAS contract and buy off that contract for something like that.
Okay, great. And as it relates to the commodity codes that he's speaking of, with the goods and services that you offer as a small business, the state interprets those instead of you providing PPE or you providing IT services or marketing. The state has, they use commodities codes, UNSPSC codes that describe your product or your service. So you want to make sure that you have the appropriate codes that you put once you set up your vendor registration with Ohio Buys.
And I have that link in the unspec link in the presentation.
In your presentation. All right, awesome. Okay, Mark Spencer wants to know, is there a dollar limit that you can spend with dealers listed on a state of Ohio contract managed by DAS? No.
So if it's a DAS contract, I can spend and spend and spend and spend and spend. There's no limit to my spending on a DAS contract.
Okay, great. Daryl McGinnis wants to know, he's an MBE firm, it's an MBE company. What is the percentage that you provide for them again?
15%. That's the minimum. But we typically hit somewhere around 22%.
Great.
We try to go up and above. Like I said, everything gets bid out MBE first.
Okay.
But there's just not enough MBE participation for every product out there. So it just doesn't happen. A lot of the MBE set aside stuff is going to be with maintenance, IT maintenance. So there's going to be a lot of MBE set aside. If you do IT maintenance of some kind, your best bet is to get in touch with DAS and try to get on a master maintenance contract, because we can use a master maintenance contract and we don't have to bid it out at all. So if you do something along those lines, your best bet is to try to get a master maintenance agreement or something like that with DAS.
Okay, great. And those master maintenance agreements and also state term schedules are another way that agencies and the state does buy. And that's something that we will actually have DAS to go over on that March 8th webinar, if you're interested in that. And so the next question, Unitober, okay, I think she just did, thank you. Devin Flowers, can you search for the Ohio Buys codes based on NAICS codes?
Based off what?
NAICS, no, and I can help with that. NAICS, North American Industry Classification codes, those are NAICS, and that's what the federal government uses. So if you're looking to do business with the federal agency, you will use the NAICS classification system. The Ohio Buys, the system that they use is called UNSP UNSC codes, United Nations Standard Product and Service Codes. It's a different system on how they look at your products or services. So it's two different things. Yeah, and I believe Jeff said he has the link to that in his presentation. And then also on March 8th, that's something that we'll have the representative from DAS to go over with you on how you can pick out your code, your appropriate codes. You can also Google UNSPSC codes. It'll bring up the list for that if you want to look at that prior to the webinar. Are there any additional questions? Great questions everybody's having. Okay, I think that may be it. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Great information, and always wonderful to find out some things that you never know about some of these state agencies. So this has really been a great webinar.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Shonda. And I do see one other question that just came through.
It's just thank.
For the 5K P card limit, do you require 3 quotes?
No, if it's below $5,000, we don't. Now, typically the 5,000, if we're bidding it out, we get 3 quotes. I'm going to tell you, so if procurement is bidding this out, we're going to try to get 3 quotes. It doesn't matter if it's $10. If we can bid it out, we're bidding it out. What that does is, so if somebody needs to go to Walmart or something like that and use their payment card to buy something that they can't get through us quickly, that's what they use their payment card for. Everybody has that ability to go out and get something quickly. Sometimes it takes 30 days for a supplier to get us something and we don't have 30 days to get it. So, or we need it now. So those are the types of things that people will use their payment card for. It's just like a credit card. They have to get permission to spend that kind of money, but they can spend up to $5,000.
Okay.
But typically, if something is put in through a requisition, it comes up through my area, my people will bid it out through Ohio Buys. It really doesn't matter how small it is. Our goal is to bid everything out through Ohio Buys. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we need something quick and we know somebody can get it. We'll just say, okay, just go to this company and get it. We can do that, but that's not something we typically do. We like to bid everything out.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Okay, and we will go ahead and transition. Jeff, if you can go ahead and turn your camera off. And then Doug and Traci, if you can turn your cameras on. And let's see if we can also get the presentation up as well. So while we are waiting on Doug and Traci, I do have Doug's bio. So I'll tell you a little bit about Doug. And Doug, I don't want to mispronounce your last name.
Machles.
Machles, okay. Okay, Doug is the sourcing analyst for the Ohio Lottery, and he has 42 years of purchasing experience, 14 in the private sector, and the last 28 years with the lottery. He has 2 national and 1 Ohio purchasing certifications. So a lot of knowledge there. And Traci, I apologize, I don't have your bio handy, but let me get back onto my Zoom screen. Okay, trying to make this large.
So can you see my share?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
because
I
I can't see what you're seeing right now, so.
I can see it and it looks like it is on full screen.
Okay.
And I will say one thing that I know about you is that you also have a hyphenated last name and that you are very, very knowledgeable on state procurement. I really enjoy getting to know you during our dry run. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Traci. Thank you.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Traci Pinkney-Nicols. I'm with the Ohio Lottery Commission. I also have Doug Machles with us today. And he is one of the sourcing analysts with the Ohio Lottery Commission. Give me one. Having fun working with this. So I've been with the Ohio Lottery Commission for 32 years now in a variety of areas. The last 2 years has been as a financial manager with procurement and contract compliance. So there's myself, Doug, and then Greg Gator, who is a second sourcing analyst. So we're a very small shop when it comes to the lottery. And the Ohio Lottery has about 300 employees statewide, 1 central office and 9 regional offices. So for our Office of Procurement, we have 3 main areas of responsibility where we're actually doing all the purchasing for the lottery, whether it's small purchases, one-time purchase, someone needed an adding machine, someone needed, I don't know, a background screen to go out to a fair, up to our larger contracts under contract compliance, which is like our gaming system that runs all of the lottery tickets statewide. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the lottery, so I'll thank you now for supporting Doug, myself, and Greg by buying tickets. Under that is also MB and Edge. So you did hear Jeff speak about it briefly. And those are 2 major programs, very important. If you're not certified, please get certified. And I'm going to speak to those programs a little further. But what I would like to start with is expanding on Ohio Buys and its role in our purchasing. So Jeff did show you the link for Ohio Buys. This is the main landing page. As you can see, there is a login right here for Ohio Buys where you immediately log in if you've already set up. If you've never been registered with the state, Ohio Pays is where you need to set up your financial registration. Very important, because if we buy something, we'd like to be able to pay you. And it's a newer system, so anybody that has done business with the lottery or the state previously, you're probably more familiar with Ohio Shared Services. And the old link has been phased out now. So if you have not already gone into Ohio Pays and reset up your registration, you do need to do so. He also showed you about the public solicitation button right here. So this you can click, as he said, every day and go into the page. And there is an important thing about this page. I am a little more familiar with Ohio Buys. I live in it almost daily. Is there are the different types of solicitations, whether it's a quick quote, an invitation.
Sorry, hang on just a second, Traci. Can everyone make sure your lines are muted?
Robert Hall, can you, I think it's coming from you. Robert Hall, can you mute your line? Thank you. Sorry, Traci.
It's all right. This tells you the type of solicitation, whether it's a quick quote, an invitation to bid, a request for quote, an RFP, or an RFI. And there are differences. Quick quotes are very quick purchases. they're not going to be out there long. Your invitation to bid is more of, we know exactly what we need, how we need it to be, and we just want to know how much is it going to cost. So we're going to give you all the specs and to ask you to tell us how much is it going to cost. A request for quote, we're looking for information, same as a request for information. The quote is a little more open as far as requirements than an invitation to bid, whereas a request for information is not an item where we're looking to put out a contract. So we just did an RFI and we are looking at redoing our gaming system. So that was important for us to get vendors to come in and tell us what they had available, what was newer, what was important, so that we could build and get a better idea of how we wanted to build our new gaming system. That RFI will then lead to an RFP, a request for proposal. And under the request for proposal, you are going to be asked to give us very specific things, but you're going to have an open end where you can provide additional items, or it's not as specific as we need, I don't know, a widget that is exactly 12 inches wide and 5 inches long and the color green, for example. Another important thing to note on this screen is the MBE set aside column. If there is a check mark, that column is specifically for MBEs. If you are not certified, you cannot bid. So it is very important that if you qualify as an MBE, you get certified, or if you qualify as EDGE, you should get certified. There are benefits to being certified. I know I have talked to MBE and EDGE vendors that have argued that they didn't understand why they should be certified, that it didn't get them a contract, but that certification gets you access to state agencies that you wouldn't have necessarily if you were trying to go open bid. It allows us to shelter that bid so that you're competing more on an apples to apples situation instead of trying to go against larger vendors that work in 3 and 4 different states and have larger economies of scale. So it is important. With that said, I'd like to look at an individual solicitation. And in here you do see it still says that it's an MBE set aside. It does give you the begin and end date. So if you're looking at it's important that if you're bidding, you get it in by that time. If you're late, it doesn't count. You will not be able to bid on it. There is an inquiry period. So if you have a question, in this case, this was for Toledo Correctional Institute, and they were looking at cap screws. If you had a question about it, this is the date and time that you would have to ask until any of your questions, and inquiries and answers to inquiries would show up at the bottom of the screen. So everybody has the exact same information as everybody else. So if you do bid, it is important to check on this daily also, so that you can see any questions that were asked. If they amend their solicitation, you're also able to see that. So under contract compliance, I assist in the creation of the RFIs, the RFPs, and the ITBs. They could be an open market contract. They could be an MBE set aside for MBEs only, or more importantly, it could be an embedded MBE set aside. So you should look at other contracts, even though you may not think that you'd be able to go for it, because there may be an MBE set aside. For example, our gaming system. I know a lot of MBEs would say we can't develop a gaming system, but we would put an embedded MBE set aside in it so that that vendor coming to us with a proposal also says that they would do a 15% spend with MBEs within the state of Ohio. So that way you can market not only to me, the lottery, or Doug, but you could market to our vendors to still get portions of the spend. And it does count towards our spend annually of 15%. We also ensure that the agency complies with the use of mandatory state programs and CRPs. So CRP is Community Rehab Program. We also post the contracts, both on the industry website and in the industry publications and our website. So for example, the National Association of State and Provincial Lotteries, or the Public Gaming Research Institute. And I've added their websites here. Because once again, when we go to put out the bid for these larger contracts, if we embed a set aside into it, which we are doing more and more of, then you would be able to see that it's there. It doesn't get quite as lost as it would with Ohio Buys. And then that way you could go directly to possible vendors and speak with them. Under contract compliance, I also monitor the evaluation of all current contracts. And that's very important because we want to make sure that not only are we good at getting a good value on any of our contracts, but we want to make sure that everybody is fulfilling the contract. So it is possible that if you have bad evaluations, that you would no longer get any other contracts with the state. And I hate to say it that way. You always have the ability to correct an issue. And that should also be reflected in the evaluation. We are able within Ohio Buys to evaluate a vendor and the contract we had with them. And if there were problems, there are remediations where we can go and have a conversation. But as smaller vendors, MBEs, edge vendors, woman-owned vendors, veteran, you also have the ability to submit complaints against an agency you're working with. And I will discuss that a little bit more in a minute.
Traci,
Yes.
we have a couple of questions that have come up. Would you want to answer them now or just wait a little bit?
I could answer them now.
Okay.
I can't see them, unfortunately.
No. I'm gonna pose them to you. Sue wants to know, with the sports betting functional this year, what are the new things happening with Ohio Lottery this year?
Okay, so sports betting, we actually regulate only a part of the sports betting. So we have proprietors, which those are the companies that are actually putting the machines out in the field and working with our retailers to provide sports betting to the public. So that's under the C-class license. For the state, there's actually 3 licenses, A, B, and C. Ohio Casino Control is regulating the A and B licenses. So that's for any of the online mobile providers or the brick and mortar. So going to one of the arenas that partner with another vendor like MGM. So right now we have, I believe, 5 proprietors that are working with the state. And there are approximately 800 host locations. And so when I say host, that's current lottery retailers, whether they're bars, restaurants, that have the equipment. So Intralot, which is our gaming system vendor, currently has the majority of them and have partnered with host locations. But you also have UBet, MGM, and there's a few others. I can get you the names, but they also partner with host locations.
Okay, great. Thank you. Wow. All right. We have 2 other questions. Kimberly Dvorak. Is there any correlation with a vendor's STS state term schedule and these public solicitations, or is there no direct connection?
I'm not sure I understand. So with the STSs, normally a vendor is on an STS. So if there is a STS that is available and we want to buy off of it, we have to get 3 bids from a vendor on the STS. I did just find out recently that if we have been working with a vendor who is not on an STS, we do have the ability to help sponsor them. Now
Okay.
that takes some time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we want to buy it, within the month. It's going to take more than a month to work with someone to help them be sponsored to be on an STS. And there's no guarantee that they will be added to the STS. So there is a little correlation there. With Ohio Buys, though, also anything you see us put out is something that is not necessarily all currently on an STS. And so we're also going open market and looking for vendors to respond to.
Okay, great. And just a little more clarification with those STS, the state term schedules. I believe we'll have somebody give a little bit more information about those on March 8th. So if you're interested in that, then you can join. Essentially, if an agency is looking to do repetitive buys all throughout the year, and so instead of them putting out a continual contract every time they want to purchase that type of good or service, they will set up a state term schedule that will allow them, instead of putting out a new contract every single time, the state term schedule will allow them to do those buys and they don't have to put out a new contract for that. But again, we'll have somebody go into a little bit more detail on how those work on March 8th. And the last question we'll have you address, Traci, is Jared Smith. Good to see you, Jared, participating on the webinar. How do we find a list of your current vendors? If they want to make relationships with those organizations, where can they find that list?
That's a good question, because I don't know. You wouldn't necessarily be able to do it through Ohio Buys. Doug, do you have an answer for that specifically?
No, I don't. I'm just thinking about that. There is no actual list that I'm aware of that has all of our vendors on it.
Now, one thing I can tell you, and I'm going to say that probably goes to talking about the embedded set aside, is agencies are also required to do a plan each year. So we're going to spend so much money in, let's say, a gaming system, or we're going to spend so much money in buying vehicles, or we're going to spend so much money in office supplies, things of that nature. So those plans are normally available. It used to be on the EODF site, but I believe it's Department of Development now does have access to those plans. So that you as a MBE or edge vendor or would be able to see what each agency is planning to buy under what areas, so that you can also look for those purchases and purchase.
Tracy, I think you're referring to the forecasts that the
Yes,
agencies, the forecast. I can look for that and post that link. Yeah. What the agencies will anticipate what they are anticipating on purchasing for the year. And they will put the description, they will put the commodity code, they will also list if it's an MBE set aside, they will have the agency, how much that agency spends on those items. So I can look for that and see if I can post that in the chat.
but part of it is you could also, and I hate to say this because I don't necessarily want 50 million people calling me, but just like you would reach out to Jeff, you could reach out to our sourcing, our purchasing department, or myself with contract compliance to find out what are we about to spend or any major purchases we're putting out. Our vendors will also be given access for the MBE and EDGE certification sites when we do set asides. So they have the ability then to go to the website and look for that commodity they may need, whether it's for janitorial services or it's for logistics, whether it's for, I don't know, office supplies. So that is available to them. And the beauty of that is, while I can't necessarily buy office supplies through an MBE vendor anymore because I'm using the
Uh-oh. Ronald Rigo, if you can put yourself on mute, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Sometimes that accidentally happens, so thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. They are not limited in how or who they spend with for certain codes. So whereas I may have to go off of an STS or an MMA, my vendor doesn't have to. And so they are able to make those purchases and we still get credit.
Great, thank you. And we'll take one last question. And if you can see for Jared, Jill, thank you, Jill, posted Traci, both Traci and Doug's email addresses in the chat. So if you need that, that's there. And this will be the last question so that Traci can continue. Stephen Grundy wants to know, is there an award informational list provided once a bid is awarded?
Award informational list provided. So you can when you go back to, how do I want to say it? If you go back to the solicitation, let me see if I can back up in this. I've gotten lost in all my screens at this moment. Give me one moment.
You're fine.
I can't stop that. I'm going to stop sharing for one moment.
Okay.
There we go. So back page. And let me reshare this screen. So just as we came into this, let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes.
So you'll see where it says open for bidding. This column will also tell you if it was awarded. So it will provide you information when you go back into who was the winning bidder, when it was awarded. It will show you if the bid, like here, the solicitation status, if it's open or closed. So at the time I took this screenshot, this bid had been closed, but it had not been awarded yet. So you will see check marks there for that.
Great.
So I hope that helped.
Great. Thank you.
Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
What I was asking was, once the bid is awarded, would there be a list of all bidders available that bidded on that specific solicitation?
I believe you would be able to see it once you went back in. If not, once it was bidded, you can also make a public records request directly to that agency for that list.
Okay, then that would give us an idea of who the vendors are.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Great information to know. And that's it for now. We'll allow you to go back to your presentation. Thank you, Traci.
Thank you. Let's see. So I forget exactly, MBE is 15%, and that is mandated. And unfortunately, like Jeff, I am only at about 9% right now. A few years back, I had managed to get the agency up to 25%, and then we lost one of our major vendors. And because the nature of contracts with renewals, it takes us some time to rebuild because I'm building it into the larger contracts. With Edge, it is not legislation, but from what I last heard, they are looking at trying to make it more than a goal of 5% spent. So that's one reason why getting those certifications are important, because you have agencies who are trying to fulfill either the mandated spend or the goal. So for those that don't know, Minority Business Enterprise is MBE. To be eligible, it must be 51% minority owned. To be certified, you must have been in business for at least 1 year. And the person that owns it must be a US citizen and an Ohio resident. But there are some major benefits. You do get contract assistance. You are eligible for financial and bonding assistance. So there are loan programs and bonding programs out there, which was a complaint I heard a lot of as an EEO coordinator, because a lot of larger contracts require you to have a performance bond, and MBEs weren't able to get the bonds needed. You are part of a certified database, which is on the Development of Ohio Department of Development's website. So if I'm looking to do business with MBEs and I want to make sure some of these MBEs are aware that I'm putting this bid out, or this, releasing an RFP, I can go and talk to them and say, go to the site, look for this. And I have done that. I know Doug has had a list when we're looking at direct purchases. So that's where you heard Jeff discussing the $50,000 spend. Every agency can spend up to $50,000 with a vendor annually under their direct purchase authority without having to necessarily get multiple bids. So we'll go out and go to our minorities and say, hey, we're looking to purchase this. So having a relationship with the purchasing officers or the EEO coordinators for the agency is also a good thing. EDGE, you've heard, is the encouraging diversity growth. Encouraging diversity growth
And equity.
Sorry, my mind blanked really quick. Once again, US citizen, resident of Ohio, has to be 51% owned by someone who's considered socially and economically disadvantaged or in a socially economic area. There is some financial requirements that I do not have listed here as far as how much that person can have of personal assets when entering the program. And there is a maximum amount of time that you can be in the program. I believe it was a total of 10 years. But with that, you also get access to being on a searchable database, financial and bonding assistance, capital loans, where this is something that was set up. There's a micro loan program that's 0% financing. So these are things that can be used to help expand your business, which is important. So they have started the Women Business Enterprise program now. Obviously, once again, US citizen who's a resident of Ohio must be a woman and must be owned by at least 51% owned by that woman. But you're able to use a certification program for reciprocal states. You're listed in a searchable database. You have access to the MBACs and the PTACs, and you also have access to training and networking and mentoring for major corporations. You have the ability to get assistance with reviewing the RFPs and how you respond to them and having your marketing plans. The veteran-friendly business enterprise can either be owned by so you have to meet one of the criteria. Either 10% of your employees are veterans or active service, or 51% of it is owned by a veteran or an active service member. This actually gets you a leg up, if that's the case, when it comes to evaluating your response for an RFP. So you get extra points for being a veteran-owned business or a veteran-friendly business. So while you may not have the cheapest rates, you get a little extra assistance to say, well, 5%. As long as you're not over 5% the lowest, you could still win the award. So using some of these programs are important. I did have in my slide the DOD's website, which will also show you all of these loan programs that are out there, and will tell you how to be able to access those loans and who they're available to. like the collateral enhancement and OCAP is not just minority or women business related, or the micro loan program, so anybody can use it. So I hope that helps. I'm sure you have plenty more questions on doing business with the lottery. Surprisingly enough, I would say talking to their procurement officers, their EEO coordinators, getting involved in the business fairs are some of the biggest steps you can make, because even though the agencies have rules and regulations they need to follow on making procurements, we also get a better idea of what's out there. And the Ohio Business Expo that was occurring every year prior to, unfortunately, the pandemic, I found out we bought a lot more than I realized we bought just by talking to people. It never occurred to me that we needed security services, or it never occurred to me that we would need logistics on our own, not just for our warehouse and distribution program that's run by another vendor. So those relationships are one of the biggest things you can do with any agency. Thank you.
Thank you, Traci. And there is another question that has come through. So if you have additional questions, if you want to go ahead and put those in the chat. Rich Campbell is a registered service-disabled veteran-owned small business. The certification at for the federal government, but he has not been in business for a year yet. Does he need to wait to be in business at least a year to register for the state's veteran business enterprise?
For the veteran business enterprise, I don't believe you have the 1 year requirement, unlike with the MBE and the WBE and the EDGE.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional questions? Thank you so much, Traci. I did not realize that it's just amazing that we're doing these, that the Lottery Commission purchased all of the, as you were even saying, all of the different services. You never think of course, you think of anything related to lottery tickets and whatnot, but the additional services, like you said, security and, whatnot. And even some of the products that you started off with, you just never think about that.
True. And we do promotional products, and people don't think about that we purchase. We buy things like Halon for our computer rooms. You
said Halon?
Yeah, for
that.
You don't think about the lottery needing someone to come out and take care of their Halon system and fire suppression system. It's been amazing. I got a real education while working in general services over some of the things that we purchase beyond pens, papers, and vehicles. I'm sure Doug could come up with some of the stranger things we've purchased over the years. We just bought, was it 13? No. 9 AEDs. The automated electric defibrillators for our regional offices. So you would be surprised what state agencies purchase.
Are those for employees, like in case there's a medical emergency?
Yes,
it is interesting. Okay.
Wow. Doug, were you going to chime in on? I see you came off mute and add some additional.
I was just going to chime in if I needed to, but she covered it just fine. I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything really unusual that I bought recently. some new gaming machines, but that's just something you figured a lot would buy, but that was an interesting purchase. So,
Okay, we do have another question. Felicia Jefferson is asking, do you give consideration for Ohio manufacturers as opposed to a product that wasn't produced or made in Ohio?
Yes, we do. In all of our contracts, Ohio manufacturer or Ohio business gets additional points over someone that is not in state.
I think it's 5%, isn't it?
I believe so, yes.
Great. Great. Are there any additional questions? It looks like we have about 30. We still have some more time. So great job, Traci. And then also from Jeff. But if there's some additional questions while we're still on, you can go ahead and type them in the chat. Or we typically don't do this, but if it's a long or lengthy question, if you wanted to come off mute and say it, since we do have enough time. And while we're waiting for that, I will just kind of do a plug. Again, we are going to, for our next webinars, we will focus on to kind of wrap up doing business with state agencies. We started off with the Ohio Department of Administrative Services, DAS, and we'll wrap up with them to go over again Ohio buys and just to kind of answer a lot of basic things like, now that I'm registered, now what? So how to get kind of set up as a vendor, going over some of the questions we talked about today, going a little bit more in depth, the state term schedules where you can go to look for information, look for opportunities, how you can apply for them, the state term schedules, OAKS, Ohio Pays, which Traci mentioned. I didn't know about that. So we'll have all of that information on March 8th. And then March 15th, I believe that will end our series on doing business with the state agencies. And then on March 15th, I'm looking through my notes, we will go to the SBA small business programs, like policy updates on the small business programs. So there are some questions that are coming in now, so thanks. I am looking at the, does the Ohio Lottery Commission do direct purchases from small businesses, like the AEDS example? Not quite sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it depends on what it is. It depends on what we're looking for. We have had companies that have reached out, whether it was to general services, which they're basically our administration, whether it was our IT department. We've had small businesses working with problem gambling. It really depends. So everything doesn't necessarily start with purchasing. Sometimes they do start with other departments within the agency, marketing a product or service. But we do make all kinds of small purchases or smaller purchases. So it depends on whether we are using our direct authority, which is up to $50,000 per year for a specific vendor, or whether or not we're going to do a release to purchase and then get bids coming in. Even if we have initially one quote, we would still need to get two more under the release to purchase.
Okay, thank you. Jared Smith wants to know, I believe, I don't know if Tracy, you mentioned this, I know that the Apex accelerators offer guidance as it relates to looking over a RFP, response, request for proposal. So I don't know if your agency does that. So if a small business, it was interested in one of the solicitations that you put out and they needed guidance as far as looking over RFP, I know the Apex accelerators assist with that. But also if that's something your agency also does to help.
We cannot, because once we put the RFP out, we have to stay hands off. And I hate to say it that way. I can always talk to someone ahead of time, you know, prior to an RFP, or if it's general questions, you know, I can speak with them. But if it's about a RFP that we've released, then yes, I wouldn't be able to speak to them until after everything was taken care of.
Okay.
And that's just for ethical and legal concerns. But I do know MBACs also, the MBACs through the DOD do it too.
Okay. So yes, because Jared mentioned that some of the RFPs and RFQs have a quick turnaround, so time may be of the essence. So Jared, what you may want to do is, if there's something maybe that has already been posted and it's already been awarded, maybe you didn't bid on it, you were interested or have questions. If it's already been awarded, then you may want to follow up with Tracy or somebody from our agency to check. But if it's something that's currently going on, a current RFP or RFQ, you want to follow up with an Apex Accelerator counselor or an MBAC counselor to get assistance with putting your bid together.
Yeah, hey, Shonda, sorry. This is Patrick. I work alongside of Jared. Actually, the question was directed towards you. In the past, we've tried to have a representative look over RFPs and our response, and we did not get a response back in a timely manner. So we're trying to figure out who we need to send these RFQs or RFP responses to, so that it can be checked over and make sure it's hitting all the marks.
Great. And you're in Columbus. I was wondering, I was, because usually I know Jared would respond. I was like, is that really Jared? So how are you doing, Patrick? But was it for, let me clarify, was it for a state contract or was it for a federal contract?
State.
Okay, so you're here in Columbus, and the Columbus counselor for that is Vicki Hawthorne. And so, and I don't know, it could have been prior to Vicki coming aboard. And so I know there was a little gap between when they had bringing on a new counselor. So it could have been during that time. But we can put her, I don't know if you've spoken or connected to Vicki.
No,
but we've never
been in touch.
Okay, no worries. We can put her contact information in the chat and get you connected. She's a great PTAC counselor with some wonderful background from the federal government and has worked with a variety of companies on putting together their responses. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, we have some more questions that have come in. This has been really good and engaging. Egyptian wants to know, how does the vending machine work for scratch-offs? Do you purchase machines from do you purchase vending machines from small businesses?
So the self-service kiosks that you see at the retailer locations are actually provided off the gaming system contract. There are some smaller machines that are available that we've gotten from another vendor, but those tend to be very specialized. It was one called a Select 4. But yeah, I can't say small business so much now.
Okay. The next question, are there specific people that are in charge for specific commodity codes? We are a security company that provides a lot of security services. Is there someone specific, I guess, for the commodities that are associated with security services or for facilities management?
So we do have deputy directors over general services, which handles our facilities management, and then a deputy director of security. If you wanted to send me your capability statement, I could always make referrals to them to have it look over of what services you're offering and help you make that contact.
Okay, great. And I will copy and paste in your information. I'll paste it in the chat again for you, not Kimberly, for Kimberly. Yes. So Kimberly, I'll paste Traci's email in the chat. Look, and then for Patrick, Vicky Hawthorne's contact information is posted in the chat. So if anybody is in the Columbus, Franklin County area of Columbus, Vicky Hawthorne is the Apex Accelerator counselor that can assist you with your solicitation. And then also the MBAC counselors can also assist as well. LaQuinta Jones says, I offer system process improvement services. Does the Ohio Lottery issue bids for this type of service?
I would need a little bit more information over what that means.
LaQuinta, can you come off mute real quick? And
so I work with human capital management systems, and I do is with the payroll, the taxes, the HR. So those type of system improvements, does the Ohio Lottery Commission offer those type of need those type of services? Because I see it's a lot of products that they're looking for, not more of, more of a operations.
Okay, so when it comes to like payroll, we are using the state system for payroll that they've developed. I can't say from a taxes point of view that we don't, and it wouldn't necessarily be employee taxes. There may be some type of opening when it comes to looking at for our winners, because there have been things that we've been trying to work on and getting more of a tax professional, so to speak, to help us with that. Once again, that's one of those areas that if you'd like to send me your information so I can take a look over it, blah, blah. Sorry, my tongue has stopped working. Look at it. I can pass that on to the right person, or at least give you some direction also.
Okay. Because that's what I look for, to work in the operations area, that type of service and improving processes. What are the root causes? Why can't it move forward? Why does it take so long to do this? And streamline the entire process. So that's what I look for, not more from a product standpoint, but a service standpoint.
And we have used different type of consultations before for various areas. So I can't say that wouldn't be something worthwhile for us.
Okay.
LaQuinta, great question. And I just posted Traci's email address in the chat.
Yep. And I just copied it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. Next question. Stephen Grundy wants to know, does the Lottery Commission purchase apparel, embroidered or sublimated apparel through RFP or RFQ, the RFP or RFQ process?
Okay, I'm not sure what sublimated apparel is. We have purchased shirts, jackets, that were embroidered or had, I can't think of the word when it's
Probably sublimated. It's when they print it on.
yes, thank you.
That's sublimated.
Thank you. Now I know what sublimated is. So we have purchased apparel and like that. Some of that is coming through our CRPs and OPI, Ohio Penal Institutes. But if we can't find it with them or they state they can't do it, so, and that's always very interesting. You know, OPI may be selling something to us regularly, and then all of a sudden we're not doing it anymore. I don't know why. And so that opens up an area where we could go back to an MBE small business for that. So we used to do a lot of promotional items with the t-shirts and everything and jackets. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, one moment.
That is okay.
Month-old puppy, sorry.
He's like, you're giving all this attention to a webinar. I need a little love and attention. No, it's, I think everybody is used to with the Zoom. Life happens on the Zoom. Life happens. So here's another question. Sue said, is there an initiative to upgrade the lottery machine and systems to be on 5G?
So currently we are on satellite. I know in the next round, we are considering a different communication source. Satellite was great, but it's at the mercy of the weather for sure.
Oh, wow.
But that's normally also a part of the gaming system proposal on how, what communications are. We do go in and we'll say that we require like dual com, maybe telephony and cable in some locations because it can't be reached. Right at this moment, we're just getting into that. So I can't say where we're going to go with that.
Great question. Are there any additional questions? It looks like that was the last question that we had. And again, this has been really very informative and really engaging. Had a lot of great questions and some things that you would never think about that our agencies buy. So just very enlightening. So again, as we're kind of wrapping up, if you do have additional questions, type them in the chat. But as I said, our next webinar in the series will be doing business with, going back to doing business with Ohio Department of Administrative Services, DAS, and specifically focusing on Ohio buys. So going into a little bit more depth than what was covered today. So we are grateful that Jeffrey Drips from Ohio Department of Public Safety did touch on it, as well as Traci Pinkney-Nicols with the Ohio Lottery Commission. So hopefully you can join us on March 8th from 10 to 12 for that next webinar. If not, that webinar will be recorded and then we will have the slides. Just to let everyone know, when we record these, it takes about a week to finalize these. So the Apex Accelerators, we're just grateful for Sharon Hopkins. I'm going to give her a shout out and her team, always doing so much behind the scenes. We're grateful to have a wonderful partnership with Apex Accelerators. I want to say PTAC, but so grateful that her team is able to finalize, and it takes about a week to finalize these. Once we do them, then that is posted on their website, Apex Accelerators. It has OUPTAC when you go to it. So Sharon, if you want to post that link on the chat, where they can go. Once you go to that website, there's a resources tab, I believe, that they have, where you can find the link to the recording and also a link to the slides, a PDF of the slides. So that will be March 8th. Then March 15th, we will transition, and then we will go and start to look at the federal government and just some of the updates with the small business programs and the certifications and socioeconomic programs with the federal government, just giving you some updates. And then we're going to start with the matchmaker, the Ohio Business Matchmaker, which is one of our signature events, a large matchmaking event where we bring in buyers from the federal government, the state government, city government, county government, some universities and colleges. And we have a big matchmaking session where they will come and basically say, hey, we're here as an agency. This is what we're looking to buy. And these are the things that we do buy, like the agencies mentioned today on the webinar. And then you as a small business can put together your capability statement, your one-page resume, that's for marketing purposes for your business to say, hey, these are the things that I sell. And so when you register with your NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification Code, and then we do a match with the agencies. So we try to see what agencies are buying what you're selling. And once you get matched up with those agencies, you can sit down and talk with them for about 7 minutes. And we've been doing this for over 15, probably close to 20 years. It is going to be in Dayton, May 3rd and May 4th at the Wright State University Nutter Center in Dayton. So the first day is usually a half day of training on May 3rd, starting about noon. We'll have a couple panel discussion. Then we will have a reception like around 5 o'clock where you can network with other small businesses. And then on May 4th, we will actually have the matchmaker. And there is a fee to that. The website should be up and running here shortly. If you look in the chat, Jill has posted the link to the website. So early bird registration will probably be up until, I don't know what, sometime in April. So if you want to jump on that.
I believe early bird is $95. Registration opens on March 1st. So March 1st through 31st is early bird. And then April 1st until the end of May is, I think, 120. We're still meeting as a committee to get those things finalized, but registration will be open shortly. With March 1st, I think, is when we're shooting to get it open.
Awesome. Thank you. We always do a webinar series leading up to the matchmaker because we understand there are some small businesses that know about the matchmaker. They've been participating in it for years, but we also recognize there are some small businesses such as yourself, you're on today, you've never heard of it, you're not familiar with it. So we do have a webinar series that will be starting at the end of March, leading all the way up until May, where every week we will talk about a specific topic. We usually kick off what is the Ohio Business Matchmaker, so you have an idea. We'll kind of go over it, go over the logistics, what you can expect out of the matchmaker, and then some of the agencies that will be participating. They will be doing a session on doing business with. We'll have several agencies, and then we will also be doing, we started doing these and we found that they've really been helpful to small businesses, where we will have what do we call them? What do we call the sessions where they pitch? What are they?
Mock matchmakers.
Mock match, thank you.
I was muted, I was talking, yeah.
Yeah, like Tracy, we do these webinars all the time where we're so used to having so much information that you forget. It's like, oh, you have a little brain fog.
Well, and you actually, I believe, were instrumental in getting them started and named, so.
Oh, was that? Oh, well.
So.
Okay, all right. Well, teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right.
I didn't realize that, but Mock matchmakers, those are really great sessions where we will allow you to register, sign up as a small business, and we'll have a panel of, there'll be a federal representative, either Jill or myself, someone from Apex Accelerators, Sharon Hopkins from Apex Accelerators, and then we'll have a buyer from a federal agency and a buyer from the state agency. And what we will do, you'll have 5 to 7 minutes to pitch your capability statement. So essentially it's a mock session before you get to the matchmaker. Before you sit down with an agency buyer, we give you the opportunity to sit down with us, pitch to us, and then we give you feedback. So it's a chance for you to practice if you've never done that. So we try to think of everything to help get you prepared for the actual matchmaker before you do it. And I think we're going to have 4 of those sessions, and we'll be having a flyer for that shortly, because those are going to be coming up. So you can register for those. Those go by quickly because we only have so many slots. So I think we may only take 7 small businesses per session. So once that does come out, if you're interested in doing that, you can sign up right away. Stephen wants to know what's the time of day for the matchmaker. So on May 3rd, it will start at noon and it'll go to like 5. So usually from 12 to 2, we'll have a panel discussion. And then from 2 to 4 or 2:30 to 4, it will be another panel discussion. And then around 5:15, there will be a reception. And that reception will be, if there are buyers that come in early, other small businesses, you can network. It's a great way to do a lot of B2B networking before the matchmaker event. And then on the actual matchmaker day, on the 4th, it starts at 8 or 9.
It's the matchmaking starts at 9. The opening remarks, I believe, are at 8:30.
Okay.
And then someone wants to know if there's a matchmaker in Northern Ohio.
There is usually
Traci,
in the Cleveland area, Sharon.
Yeah, there is one in December that's a virtual matchmaker. It's called the Mega Tri-State Matchmaker with Northeast Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. And so again, that's in December. So we send out information to our clients about that. So I'm not sure who asked, but if you're a client, you should see something coming out about that in the fall. And then if you're in Northwest Ohio, that Apex Accelerator normally does an event with Michigan. So you again would see things from his organization if you're one of his clients as well.
Great, thank you, Sharon. And I think that's it for announcements, and we're at 11:59. So again, thank everybody. This is my first time attending this type of session. Great information. Yes, Evan, we're glad that you were able to join. These have been wonderful, fantastic. Some of the most well-attended webinars that we've done to date. So they've really been informational, very engaging, a lot of great questions, a lot of great information. You never know that our state agencies have purchased. So if this was your first one, Evan, I do encourage you to go back to listen to the other ones. The first one we kicked off was in January, doing business with Ohio Department of Administrative Services. They talked a little bit about Ohio buys and some other things. And then I think the second one was on doing business with ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation. The third one was doing business with Ohio Department of
Natural Resources
and
Corrections.
Rehabilitation and Corrections. So those links should be posted. The recording link should be posted on the Apex Accelerator OUP Tax website along with the slides. So you can go back and revisit those, check those out. And then again, we definitely want to thank Jeffrey Dribbs today from the Ohio Department of Public Safety. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing today. And then also both Traci Pinkney-Nicols and Doug Machles with Ohio Lottery Commission. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Happy to
And
be here.
we're just grateful that we're able to work to bring to you as a small business, to our small business community, the opportunities that you have with our state agency. So hopefully this has been such a favorable, this has been a great, something new that we did, but it's been such a great favorable response. We probably will be doing it again. So stay tuned. Thank you again, everybody, for your time today. We appreciate you joining us. We hope you can join us in March, but have a wonderful day. Looks like the sun is out here. I'm in Columbus. It's almost 50 degrees, so enjoy the weather. And again, thank you for your time, and hopefully you can join us again in a couple weeks.